Welcome to the PDX files. Each week we dive into the weird and the unexplained here in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. My name is Peach.
And I'm Mac.
And Mac, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we're going to get into something everybody knows. Luckily for everybody, it's not Robin Williams. He's not the genie this time. But there's something called a Djinn that is kind of a paranormal entity in the Middle East. And also there's some you're going to find some quantum theory and some other interpretation in this video that we're going to get into.
Quantum theory. All right.
Indeed. Yeah, I know nobody came here to do math, but we're going to do some tonight.
Well, that sounds interesting. And as usual, folks, I have not seen this video. And so my reactions are going to be very real. And
terrible because your voice is awful, but that's quite all right.
Well, for folks who follow the show, I mean, I already started getting sick the last episode. And yeah, it is what it is. 'Tis the season. All right, we'll go and start.
The veil that separates us. Once a year, the Bakir Pasa Kusk, a rundown mansion in an affluent area of Istanbul, would literally vanish off the face of the earth for several seconds before momentarily reappearing again. This 200-year-old building has been manifesting anomalous attributes for more than 30 years, becoming one of the city's most infamous paranormal locations. Exactly what causes the building to vanish is unclear, but local folklore suggests that it's transported to another location, or even reality for a brief period of time. But this is not the most unsettling attribute about this area, or even Istanbul. In addition to the sightings of phantom apparitions, the Bakir Pasa mansion is just one of several places in the city where the very fabric of reality is said to become so contorted and warped that space and time loses all meaning.
I think he meant contorted, but yeah, I mean, just think about that, in a city as old as Istanbul, or is it Constantinople? Think about that. Oh, that was an ad. Oops.
There was an ad, but yeah.
I thought I had a plan to stop. Sorry, I stopped looking at my notes. All right, continue.
Okay. Edit. But wait a second. So it's a building that disappears. I was trying to read it as well. For like 5 seconds every year or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact length of time, but it kind of zips in and out of existence.
Oh wow!
And yeah, it's pretty goddamn sweet.
All right,
you gotta say.
Continuing now. Actually, hang on. I need to find the spot.
Yeah, I was supposed to stop at 137.
That's not what it says on the notes.
It says start at 101. It says, oh no, you're right. Okay, gee. Okay, I see it now.
Keep playing it then.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, should we try to react to it again, or we just continue on?
We can just continue.
All right.
So just to confirm, so will this end at 248 or end at 137?
It starts at 137.
Oh, it starts at 137.
Ends at 248.
Okay, so I'll just start at 137.
Yep.
In 2 previous episodes, we looked at the possibility of wormholes existing in Iraq. We first examined them through the lens of Mesopotamian mythology via the Sumerian deity known as Tiamat, where we hypothesized that creatures from local folklore are transported to our reality through her body like a wormhole by some kind of mystical process. We then took an opposite perspective and looked at this as a purely scientific and a technological concept via a device known as a Stargate, where individuals can not only instantly travel across large distances, but also see hypothetical projections of future timelines across the multiverse. The link to those episodes can be found in the description box below. But there are other types of gateway in the Middle Eastern tradition where not only individuals can be instantaneously moved from one location to another, but also entire structures. For example, in ancient Omani folklore, There is a mosque that is said to be able to translocate itself to distant locations overnight, as it was built by Djinn, which is a race of invisible creatures from Islamic tradition.
Right, and see, that's the thing I didn't really know much. Again, I jokingly mentioned Robin Williams, but I mean that's the extent of the knowledge that I have of Djinn. Other than I know that it's taken pretty seriously in Middle Eastern culture, and it's probably called other things in other cultures as well. There's very similar myths and legends that kind of surround that. But just I really what I really appreciate about what they're going on to try to connect is science to the paranormal, which is extremely interesting. I mean, if they're able to make a credible case, again, I haven't seen those other videos that they just mentioned. I'm gonna watch those videos because I think that so far it's definitely grabbed my attention anyway.
You need to explain why you keep referencing Robin Williams.
Well, because he was in Aladdin. Sorry for those who are younger. That's true. You're right. It's a generational thing. Yeah, there was the original Aladdin. Didn't they come up with updated version that
They
wasn't very
did.
good?
They did a live action.
Oh, for F's sake! Yeah, just watch the original version. Robin Williams was Aladdin. He probably was Aladdin until the day he died. But anyway,
But Djinn, the word Djinn, though, you're saying that's
it's
where
related to
genie.
the genie. Yeah, the
There we
genie
go.
of the genie of the lamp. Thank
All
thank
right.
you for making me connect
Yeah.
those two.
Well, I'm sure you connected everything in your head, but you just hadn't verbalized
I,
it. So, all right.
indeed. Thank
All right.
you.
We'll continue here.
While today in 21st century Turkey, there is a villa that displays similar anomalous attributes that many modern-day Istanbul residents have claimed to have witnessed. In the affluent Bakırköy district, amongst the rows of apartment blocks and middle-class villas, there is a rundown mansion many residents in the area believe to be haunted. Since the 1970s, this dilapidated 19th century house has been exhibiting anomalous attributes that go beyond your classic haunting scenario. According to eyewitness accounts, the entire structure would momentarily vanish for 5 seconds once a year, at no
I
set date
can't
before reappearing
translate any
again.
of that.
Adı çıkmış yok böyle bir şey. Ev kaybolmuş ben hiç bir yerde ne duydum ne
Even
gördüm
though
böyle
there
bir
has
şey.
yet to be any recorded evidence of it ever doing so, the legend persists with some long-term residents in the area saying they have witnessed the phenomena. While the mansion's ability to vanish or shift locations is questionable, given the lack of evidence, other more common supernatural manifestations have been observed on its grounds.
So, I mean, the one thing with the video is we can't tell what those people are saying. They could be saying, "You're full of shit." Nothing like that ever happens here. I don't think that's the case here. I think they're actually referring to something in the area that's pretty legendary. Like, we mentioned in our very first episode about the Hell House and kind of how there's lore of that place, right?
Yeah.
This is very similar here, although this is on a totally different scale. So we're talking about like a potential haunting. There could be a genie involved, and there could be wormholes. And that's why it's so interesting, this story and the different theories behind it. I don't know. The fact that there are local witnesses, if in fact we're going to take that as like, okay, they are talking about it in a serious way. It's pretty compelling. And
Yeah, I'm not gonna be closed to the idea, but the lack of video evidence is certainly, it's certainly disappointing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those stories like that. But I mean, a lot of the stuff that we maybe believe in or have seen other evidence for doesn't always necessarily have video or photo footage. And again, you're talking about a city like Istanbul or Constantinople. It's like thousands and thousands of years old. So who knows what the hell is buried under all that stuff?
Very true. All right, we shall continue here.
According to the paranormal investigator Paul Dale Roberts, one evening, 3 witnesses in the neighborhood saw an indefinable creature circling the roof, land on it, and then float away.
That ain't good.
This is not the only unexplainable phenomena this quarter of Istanbul has become known for.
Wow, it's a
A
beautiful
short
city.
22-minute drive from Bakırpasa is the Grand Bazaar, one of the oldest and largest markets in the world. Like the mansion, this souk is also said to exhibit reality-bending attributes. For the most part, the Grand Bazaar is actually a regular place where nothing out of the ordinary occurs. Built in 1461 with an aesthetic design that resembles a giant maze, this historical shopping area consists of close to 61 streets and more than 3,600 shops. However, it's within the oldest part of this bazaar where the location's anomalous attributes tend to manifest. In addition to the numerous Djinn encounters reported in this particular part of the souk, where sightings of dead merchants have apparently been witnessed, it is believed as an explanation that a hidden gateway, be it physical or supernatural, exists in this area. It is this alleged gateway that has led to an urban legend that states that there is a labyrinth of underground tunnels that connects the bazaar to hidden city-sized subterranean habitats beneath Istanbul. This is the natural explanation. The supernatural explanation states that this gateway, that may be one of several, is in fact interdimensional and connects to the world of the Djinn.
Now we're talking. Honestly, though, there is a lot of underground. I thought about going to Istanbul at one point, and is a huge underground. It's not like in Portland where they have like there's a little underground, So people got Shanghai. No, nothing like that. Like full underground, like labyrinths and like it's the stuff of nightmares. But also, kind of reminds me of actually Djinn. It's not like Robin Williams again. I mentioned him again. They're actually pretty scary entities in that part of the world. It's not all fun and games and not doing Disney songs. It's like some serious. It's not about three wishes either. Like they're not like liked. It's not like they maybe they worship them, but it's not because of the great deeds that they do. It's because they're scared the heck out of them. And so again, I don't know anything about wormholes or different dimensions, but again, the fact that this lore, according to this particular podcast, YouTube podcast, is really interesting, and I love to hearing about this kind of stuff that goes on around the world.
Yeah, I mean, and when you're talking, like you said earlier, I think you said it earlier, that when it comes to these cities that are just ancient and so, kind of embedded in their areas, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that there's a lot of things that go on there that are unexplained, and and it's are the basis for many of the fairy tales and kind of legends that are still told today. Yes, modernized in a way, Disneyfied, if for some of them even. But and I was just kind of reading about the Jinn, and there is and the three wishes that you mentioned as well. And that certainly is a made up thing, but it seemed to have originated like the first wish. Um, let's see. First wish is to ruin their life. The second wish is to undo the damage, and it doesn't actually. I can't read the third right now, but it's kind of just interesting how it kind of evolved, right? Like where again the Disneyfied version is you have the three wishes, and you can't wish for more wishes or something like that. You know how it's a little bit more. I don't know, innocuous.
It is definitely along those lines, and to hear it like that is like, okay, this entity has a malevolent
Oh
spirit.
yeah.
It's not trying to help you, and if you do you get out of it in a good way, that's because just plain luck, right? Because I've always thought even at night, sometimes trying to fall asleep, it's like, okay, what three wishes would I do, and how would it go? And probably everything I would do would probably fall into the category. Like I would wish for this, unless you're very specific. It's like almost like that. The Jinn's a lawyer and is looking for any kind of loophole, like fuck you in like some way.
Right,
You
right.
got to be very, very careful in what you
Read
wish
the
for.
fine print. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do feel that because of their malevolence that they'll try to it's more of a trick. Like you think you're getting some for free and you end up dying or something.
It's a very human kind of kind of jaded way of looking at a deity. I mean, And if there is a deity like that, I mean, that's an evil deity. That's not something that you want to like mess with for sure.
No, no,
But yeah, I mean, it makes you think very, very carefully about what you wish for.
absolutely. All right, moving on.
According to Paul Dale Roberts in the fall of 1998, while exploring the various shapes of the bizarre, a young woman by the name of Fariha Teke claims she witnessed an event that cannot be rationally explained. Hit by a sudden bout of vertigo, she recounts that the air around the bazaar began moving like a translucent wave. She noticed that most other people in the busy market were unaware of the phenomena while it occurred, although there were a few who were looking in its general direction as if they were noticing that something was not quite right. According to Fariha, the waves then became an oval opening, and from it, a spectral entity emerged. She describes the emerging creature as looking like a bald-headed man sporting a ponytail. His body was almost completely transparent, apart from its outline that came in the form of a human male. And when the portal closed, the spectral creature moved at lightning speed into the crowd, vanishing from sight.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the just like, when she said she had vertigo at the beginning of that. I
Yeah,
mean, I've had vertigo before. I've never had experience anything like that. That was a long time ago, and I kind of got over it. But the fact that other people kind of like happen to notice it. Again, if you believe her story, right? Again, you have to 100% kind of buy into that. I think she was probably just dizzy, and that's kind of what happened.
hallucinated.
No, I mean, as far as the other part of it, maybe you pass out a bit because I've had vertigo, and there are some points where you're like, oh, you're kind of like, you feel like you're going to pass out. I don't know. I'm not a big. I don't know. I don't know if I believe that story.
But the description of the entity definitely is reminiscent of how the genie is depicted, right?
Right.
Bald with a ponytail, and
Yeah.
maybe obviously male. And then maybe the bottom half is wispy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm not so sure I believe that particular story. I mean, some of the other stuff is more compelling. If we were going to go and talk to this person, I would say, yeah, you experienced some vertigo, maybe you fainted, and that's
Yeah,
about it.
and lay off the bath salts.
But whatever they are, I'm sure they're very intense there in Turkey. So
All
yes.
right, let's continue.
So where exactly did this entity come from? And where could the Bakir Pasa mansion be going? Within Islam, it is stated that there is a type of spiritual realm where the Jinn exist. Amira Zayn in her book, Islam, Arabs and the Intelligent World of the Jinn, states that as spiritual entities, the Jinn are considered dual-dimensional, with the ability to live and operate in both manifest and invisible domains.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting.
In the Muslim faith, it is said that a veil separates the world of the jinn and the world of the humans. However, although the exact nature of the veil is unclear, maybe quantum mechanics can provide us with a clue.
Quantum
This
mechanics.
this is where it really starts getting interesting. It's like in the book talking about dual dimensional, that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
Because I mean, if you look at any deity, they're existing in another plane, and then they come down to our plane, right? So it kind of
right.
makes sense. And the way that he described it, I might have to go read that book, is extremely interesting when you look at myths and legends throughout the entire world, really.
And religion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
You
when
know,
you incorporate that, they are on it. It's a definitely dual dimensional kind of thing.
yeah, especially when you're talking about, obviously like in Christianity, the heaven is one dimension outside of, separate dimension from the earthly realm. Hell is another dimension from the
Yeah,
earthly realm.
yeah. So, but Satan can't go to heaven, so it's still a dual dimensional being, right? If you kind of look at it that way.
Right.
So I'm kind of looking forward to see how they kind of incorporate this into the quantum mechanics thing.
Well, and I'd never, I mean, when I'd heard of gin before, and not outside of gin and tonic, I've heard of and I've seen different spellings of it, but there's never been any correlation to science. So this is definitely interesting. We'll see
I
what
love
see
it.
what that they have to say.
Let's do it.
In the book, The Vengeful Djinn, Unveiling the Hidden Agenda of Genies, the authors Rosemary Gilly and Philip J. Mbrono states that M in string theory can explain where the Djinn exist and why we're unable to see that place. Although they sometimes wrongfully conflate the terms alternative universes, the multiverse, and dimensions as all variations of the same phrase, which they are not, they do spark an interesting discussion on the physics of our reality and how the world of the Djinn can theoretically fit within it. They state, when we consider the many variations of string theory, it is easier to accept the idea that Djinn exist in another dimension rather than our own in the multiverse. This race of beings would be invisible to us in our spatial plane of reality. So building off Gilly and Mbrono's theory, let's explain how dimensions work via M theory and where the Djinn fit in. Our current understanding of reality recognizes that the human race lives in a three-dimensional world that is defined as forward and backwards, up and down, on an XY scale. The word dimension literally refers to a scale of measurement, with our three-dimensional world, or 3D, governed by a fourth dimension called time. Quantum mechanics posits that there could be up to 11 or more different types of dimensions. So our question is, what if each dimension could be home to a specific class of life, such as Djinn?
Man, they just took it to another fucking level right there. And, like, I was totally like, we were totally following the whole thing. Like, they just said, boom, here you go. Here's an emerald saying, boom, here's some spice into what's going on here. That is extremely interesting. I never thought about like that with any kind of paranormal activity. So you can even say like a Djinn is on a higher level than say like like a human spirit maybe versus a demon. The Djinn might be a little bit like maybe they can see more. It's like there's all these different things, these different ways of looking at it. I found that to be like mind blowing actually.
Well, and we've talked about, parallel worlds, or not parallel worlds, but different
The
dimensions
multiverse, yeah,
and
or different
multiverse,
dimension. Yeah.
and how, when it comes to ghosts, for instance, how, after we've lived in this plane and, our bodies, our shells expire, we do shift, or there's the thought process that we shift into a different plane.
Right.
Perhaps it's the same plane where the Djinn lives. Who knows? Or maybe it's a completely different plane from where the Djinn live.
Yeah, I think the Djinn are more, they're not omnipotent, but they're definitely a lot more powerful than what we would be. So I would say they probably have access to different dimensions than what we do,
Yeah.
and have more control over those areas. Than if you're going to look at it from that perspective, but bringing string theory into it, I didn't fully understand why that was because I don't know anything about string theory,
N-
but it's very interesting how they have some scientists talking about the possibility of these extra dimensional beings that when they visit us, they see way more than what we can see. We don't have the capability to see those things. So I mean, it kind of makes sense a little bit when you think about it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's just another way of explaining something, right? So obviously, one way of explaining it is the way the Muslim or the Islam faith. Wait, did I say that correctly?
No,
Muslim, yeah,
Muslims, yeah,
and their faith describe it and explain it, and then
it's fascinating. Yeah,
and then there's the scientific way of explaining it, which is string theory and quantum mechanics.
absolutely.
All right, and by the way, Emerald says "bam," not "boom." All
Oh
right,
shoot, you're right. Damn it.
so
God
well,
damn it.
let's continue.
With that question in mind, what would a lower two-dimensional world and its theoretical life forms look like to us using M theory? Simple. Just look at a photograph. Beings with 3D capacity, like us humans, would be able to view a flat 2D world such as a photograph or a TV screen with ease. But beings from a 2D world would be unable to see what our 3D world really looks like, essentially making us partially invisible to them. This law of visibility applies to every dimension.
That's
No
interesting.
matter what dimension a being is in, they can only see the dimensions below, and only partially the next dimension above. Therefore, since humans are only 3-dimensional beings, we cannot physically see the 4th dimension, which is time. However, a 4D being would be able to view our 3D world and our timeline in its entirety from beginning to end, from the creation of the universe until the end of time. Moving up a step, a higher 5th dimensional being will not only be able to see our complete timeline like a 4th dimensional being, but they can also see all possible timelines across a multiverse of timelines. A 6th dimensional being would be able to see beyond that, and a 7th beyond that, and so on and so forth. So what dimension could the Djinn be in?
Sounds very Doctor Strange.
It is, but when you think about, I like the way that the narrator explained it. It's like you keep going up these different,
Yeah.
steps, and like, if you can do this, then you should be able to do that, and if you can do this, then you can do that, and that makes a lot of sense. The way that they're, especially when they're talking about time itself, and maybe the limitations of certain beings that are in that particular dimension. It's certainly, at least in my opinion, kind of explains why human beings are not able to see a lot of things. But we're being visited maybe by other beings who have the ability to kind of, go into the slums of where we are in like the 3D world and, try to interact with us.
And it could also help explain that, for instance, people who, claim to be able to see ghosts or spirits or perceive things that,
Some people have more gifts, right?
well, some people have more gifts, and that's the human way of explaining it. And another way to say it, using quantum mechanics and string theory, could be that there are humans that are maybe imbued with 4th dimension perception, or
Yeah.
even beyond fourth dimension. But that could potentially explain why we have psychics, and we have clairvoyance,
Yeah.
being able to tell what's going to happen in the future, type of thing. And this perception of time, it's interesting. I've never really equated anything to quantum mechanics when it comes to paranormal stuff.
But I mean, I think a lot of things that we take for granted as far as like being the possible in our world, it's all based on not necessarily quantum mechanics, but mathematics and all the things that we are kind of the reading of a god's language, I guess you could say. I kind of equate that to those numbers.
Yeah.
And some folks can maybe experience that from a scientific perspective, but not being able to see it. Like I can comprehend that. I wish I had the ability to perceive it from the spiritual realm, to be able to see above some of those dimensions. I don't have that gift. I wish I did. But I don't know. Maybe it's not that good. Maybe it is kind of a bit of a curse. But looking at that from a scientific perspective, how you can equate those things, I get that. That makes sense to me, rather than just like someone's testimony who we can't read because we can't speak Turkish, or anybody else, some other weirdo who's on the street is like, I saw this shit. Why don't we look at it from a scientific perspective? And that's why I kind of appreciate what these folks are doing.
Absolutely. So let's bring this one home.
Yep.
Now, since Djinn are somewhat limited by the progress of time, much like us humans, then we can guess that they exist somewhere between the 3rd and the 4th dimension. The Holy Quran portrays jinns as occupants of a parallel world of spirits. So using in theory, we can say that they are in essence higher dimensional creatures, compared to us, that they have the ability to observe our 3D world while remaining invisible to us. The Holy Quran states, "Lo, he, the devilish Iblis, sees you, he and his tribe, from whence you see him not." If the veil that separates dimensions are a natural part of nature, there may be naturally occurring weaknesses in it that allows our dimensions to interact with each other. This may be the case with the Grand Bazaar and the Bakr Pasa mansion, two locations that may serve as small examples of anomalous phenomena that link the world of quantum physics and spirituality together in ways we still do not fully understand.
That's just badass stuff right there. I got to admit that is fascinating. I don't really care about the Quran or the Bible or the Torah or any of that kind of stuff, but the idea that you can connect those two worlds together using those theories, I think is absolutely fascinating. I haven't seen that anywhere else. I'm sure it exists on YouTube, and there's been all sorts of theories, but that's pretty interesting stuff. And if you and the viewer who watches this is able to sort of extrapolate that and spend a sleepless night thinking about it, as I have a couple times, I think it's definitely worth your while.
I mean, definitely was, I was not aware really about, I have no knowledge of M theory or string theory or quantum mechanics, but even
A little bit
just
of
this
quantum mechanics.
video,
Yeah,
what was that?
I have a little bit of knowledge of quantum mechanics, but not
Whatever.
just an idiot's knowledge.
Okay, it's an idiot's guide of quantum mechanics. But even just this short snippet of, being able to explain that there's three dimensions and the fourth dimension is time, and and then beyond perception of that would be the where string theory comes in the parallel universes. It's pretty interesting because I've never, like I said, I've never really read a lot about that, and it's um, very palatable to me to use that that scientific area to explain what is otherwise perceived to be paranormal.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Is like, for you and I as being, formal, not formal, former paranormal, well, we were kind of formal in a way.
We were
Uh,
formerly too.
Paranormal investigators, we always try to rely on the best data and the science available to us at the time, right?
Yeah.
And combine that with the visceral, the visual world and the things that we can see, and then sort of try to figure it out from that point. I think that is what, the lesson that I got from this is that there may be other explanations
Hmm.
for things that we're not smart enough to explain, but be open to them. And I don't know if that house disappeared for 5 seconds. If it did, that's amazing. I mean, it's fantastical, and but I'm not opposed to believing in something like that.
No, me neither am I. I mean, and especially when you hear stories, and maybe we probably want to do an episode about time slips in the future.
Yep.
But when you hear
Yep.
stories about time slips and people unknowingly being in one, like, how do you explain that?
Yeah.
Outside of maybe this parallel, I'm sorry, this string theory, quantum mechanics, you know, methodology. So, yeah, interesting stuff. Thanks for finding that. So, if you enjoyed this content, please give it a like and share it across your socials to help get the word out about our show. If you hadn't already done so, please subscribe on YouTube. I'm sorry, let me try that again. If you hadn't already done so, please subscribe. And on YouTube, hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss any future episode. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.